Hey, Marshall.
Oh, no.
We still have more unanswered questions.
Yep, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, you got me for 20 minutes. Jeffrey Lee Diller. What polishes do I recommend and how often? I recommend no polishes, no waxes, no rejuvenators, no hydrators, no anything. What I recommend, use a clean cup, but water, distilled water, and a terry cloth towel should get rid of almost everything. Any waxes, polishes will leave a residue on your guitar, eventually clouding the surface. A. B. A lot of them have some nasty silicones or stuff like that, which makes my job a lot harder for repair, because there's nothing scarier than when you go to glue a joint, like on a crack, and you put the glue on, and it gets up and dances off of the surface of the guitar because it's basically seal coated like your car. Please don't use any waxes or polishes. Now, the other part of it is that whenever you use something like that on your guitar, if you have a crack on the top and you put like some lemon oil on, which is a very popular one, which should be burned at the stake, whenever that lemon oil hits that surface, it's going to wick down into any crackles on the finish. I've seen some absolutely gorgeous guitars with some of the older Spanish guitars will get that alligatory checkered pattern from the finish checking, which is original. Love it. I've seen them get ruined because somebody put lemon oil on it to preserve it and hydrate it. By the way, oil doesn't hydrate. That's a water thing, hydra. Whenever they put that on, it basically made the whole guitar look like a cheap handbag with all these crackles and dark spots. And that's actually a bad thing. Second of all, anytime you put lemon oil onto the fingerboard, you are adding an oil which will turn rancid. The rancidity turns acetic, so you mix the acetic nature of that oil with the heat of your fingers. You now get accelerated wear on your fingerboard. So what you're doing to protect it is actually destroying your guitar. So stop destroying your guitar, stop using all that stuff. The only thing that those materials are good for is separating you from your hard-earned money. So stop buying them, use some water. Where no mind meets. I like this question. What happens if I cut a double thick top and then carve my braces out of it? In the guitar world, we typically work with a flat top, and then we glue junk onto it. By junk, I mean braces. And that can be, spruce, cedar, carbon fiber. I know somebody who makes essentially little I-beams. The violin world is very interesting because the very cheapest of the cheap factory instruments from the mid-1800s would do this, because you have to fit a bass bar into the bass side of a violin and put it in there. The problem is when you have the grain lines going in one direction and your brace going across, you're not bracing anything, you're just adding extra mass because you're not taking into account the directionality of the wood grain. So wood is very strong this way, very weak this way, and even weaker this way, as the braces tend to go. So you're just adding unsprung weight. So I have seen guitars like those, very cheap ones, often made in Central and South America, where they do just kind of carve the braces out of the top. And I'm not 100% sure if it's the rest of the construction, but first of all, it always looks very haphazard. Second of all, it's exceptionally wasteful because when you cut up a wood for a brace, you have to throw away everything that's not there if you're cutting it out of the top. If you're cutting it off of another piece of wood, you are only losing the thickness of the saw and whatever you trim away. So you have a much higher rate of usage for the material if you use two different pieces rather than one, and you have better strength, and you can control it better. Thank you for that question. That was a very good question. I like that. All right. New Guns Guy. I know I talked to you about this one. What's the standard size for fret wire? what's the best pizza? All right. I think that this is absolutely a personal taste kind of thing. I personally like the Dunlap 6290s. They're a little bit smaller for some people. I like the 6109s. Those are a bit on the big side for some people. I like the Stumac 155s. Those I find are kind of the perfect fret wire right now. And the 148s are almost the same as the Jim Dunlap 6290s. So there's a whole bunch. There's a lot of people who like different things. I've put on stuff that's about as small as a mandolin wire, or all the way up to a bass wire and everything in between. Boy, with a nothing answer, I'll say that I like the 155s as my everyday fret. Those are the ones that I like to hit with a hammer regularly. Morris Fleury guitarist. You ask about crackles on the French polish. Have I seen this before? Yes, many times. Oftentimes it's actually not a French polish. It's some sort of a lacquer mixed with maybe like a China dryer or something like that. Or there's the super lacquer, which is a shellac mixed with some lacquer and a China dryer or linseed oil or something like that. Where it's French polished on, it builds really, really fast, but there's a chemical imbalance because, frankly, we are luthiers, not chemists, and we're just adding stuff to a pot. Does it mean anything that it's cracking? Yes, it means that your guitar is getting older and the chemistry was poor, and it's probably about to look awesome unless you put cleaners, waxes, and polishes on it. So, with that said, don't do that. So, this one is from Todd Rasmussen with numbers. I just discovered your amazing videos. Thank you. Why are there no classical guitars with tops other than cedar or spruce? What if it was something else? There are. There are plenty of other guitars. There are plenty of other materials used. I know of a maker who just did a double top Brazilian rosewood. I know that the ukulele community is big. Sorry, did I mispronounce that? Ukulele community is really big on using koa as a top. And I know that the charangos like to use something else as well. For us, a lot of it is tradition. I don't think that there's really a bad answer to this sort of thing. But, what we're looking for is a combination of strength along the grain, weakness across it. Now, maple may have that, but sometimes if you've got a lot of flames in there, maybe you don't have that. So, as the flames go through the wood like that, you really can have some weak spots and some strong spots. So I think for the most part, it's done out of consistency because cherry can be a little bit inconsistent with its thickness or its density and its strength. So, thanks for the question. Petru_music. You asked, what are my opinions about nylon, carbon, or other string materials? Can all guitars support all types of strings? Thanks. You're welcome. Oh, right. Anyways, I personally believe that you should kind of stay within the system. So if you've got a classical guitar, you should stay with the classical strings, so the nylon-based strings. I am very open to strings. I find that some guitars respond really, really well to the floral carbon-based strings. Others, not so much. I don't like to use gut strings. I think that they sound fantastic, but they are also some of the most infuriating strings that I've ever encountered. I trained as a violinist. That's my primary instrument. And there's nothing like playing the note, playing another note, and going back to the one that you just played, and it wasn't where you left it. So, as far as the others, as long as you stay within the system, you're going to be fine. Use what you like. Try them out. For the most part, they don't differ all that much in terms of overall tension. What you are doing is changing the density and the diameter, so that way you get a more high frequency resonance rather than a slower one. Try many strings. If you want to put steel on, you could put maybe an 8/1000 first string. That would be kind of, and then everything going down for there. So I think that's an extra light set. You can use that, but again, be careful because as you pull those strings through the hole, they will definitely saw a hole through your bridge. So don't do that. Maxine Hardy 9411. You ask, you were wondering if I ever fit guitars with friction pegs and how do you go about it? What are my thoughts on friction pegs? Yes, I do. How do I go about it? I spent the money to get a really good reamer, one of these guys. It's a very nicely made tapered violin reamer for violin pegs. And I got a corresponding peg shaper, which is essentially a pencil sharpener for pegs. And then I use the lipstick peg dope. Don't use the... there's like a powder one, don't use that, and don't use the drops. The drops, I've had to use a wrench to undo the dropped pegs. So yeah, don't do that. I love them. What you can't do with friction pegs is use a really cool automatic tuner like this, made by Rody. I'll include a link down below. But that said, I prefer them. I do not like the mechanical geared pegs. Because to me they always feel cheap and there's something that gets lost in the tactile sense of it. And I will say that almost every single time I see them, they are installed wrong, because what most people don't understand is that there is a left and that there is a right. And if you just kind of put them in because you're too lazy to look at the way that the threads are going, you end up with something that won't hold well, or well, yeah, it basically doesn't hold well, or if you're trying to preserve an old instrument, that they don't wind or unwind properly. Basically, don't use the mechanical ones. If you want a mechanical tuner, get a mechanical tuner. If you want pegs, get pegs. I like pegs. I'm a violinist, so I know how to use them. Graxy Cool, if I'm saying that one. You ask, what effect does the stiffness of laminated sides have on long-term durability of the guitar? Will the stiff sides prevent the top and back from moving during humidity changes and eventually cause other cracks or issues? That's a great question. The effect of the stiffness from the laminated sides will really prevent the sides from moving. That's not going to do anything to hold your top into place, especially preventing cracks or other issues. When you have a top that cracks, that means that the rim, which, the size of the guitar, and pay no attention to this oud that I'm working on, and please don't contact me to work on ouds. Anyways, the rim of the guitar, or the sides, are set into place, and because they are a curved surface, they're not going to move around too terribly much. If your top shrinks, that rim is not going to move a whole lot, but your top will shrink, so that's going to be really where the cracks come from. If your top could be unattached from the sides, then it wouldn't, well, sound, but it also wouldn't crack either. But yeah, it's that anchoring around the edge that will not, that will crack it. The benefit to having a really stiff side is that they actually transmit a lot of vibrations around through the instrument. I just had a really cool guitar made by an Italian maker that had sides that were almost 1/4 of an inch thick. It was really cool because they were laminated with balsa and pine and very, very light sides with a really nice exterior. And the sound of that guitar was just incredible. So now, I think that the sides had something to do with it because we've seen the top bracing pattern before, we've seen the back bracing pattern before. The side thickness is pretty cool. Thanks for your question. Thanks for watching. Thanks, James, for catching me while I'm stuck here. And, go ahead and check out the website, links down below. I'll leave links to a lot of the stuff I talked about below in the comments. And, thanks. Subscribe, like YouTube stuff. I don't know. I enjoy this. I'll see you next time.